If you listen to the news, you may have reached the conclusion that there are always crises or disasters happening somewhere in the world. You may also see that there is a need to support those most affected. But how? Community mental health resources are already stretched thin, so how can we expand our ability to support those most in need when adversity strikes? Hello, I'm Andy Everly. Welcome to the ICISF Quick Tip Series. In today's episode, we will look at ways of rendering compassionate support to survivors of crises and disaster. More specifically, we will look at the role that spirituality and religion plays in coping with stress and trauma, and how to best harness them, or not. Who better to help us explore this idea than the Reverend Dr. Rob Dewey. Reverend Dewey is an Episcopal priest whose flock extends far beyond the church. He has worked for the FBI, the American Red Cross, and other disaster response organizations. In fact, he is one of the founders of Pastoral Crisis Intervention. Reverend Dewey, many think of you as a pioneer in the use of spirituality and religion in disasters and other crises. What prompted you to take your ministry into the community and focus on the most challenging of situations?
Thank you for that question, and it's an honor to be on this podcast. For me to be able to come here and talk about taking ministry outside the church is very, very important, because people a lot of times aren't going to come into a church unless something traumatic happens. So we can go outside the church, four walls of the church, and look for folks that are hurting, and look for folks on scenes of suicides and car wrecks, car fatalities, and minister to those families and get them reconnected perhaps with a pastor of a church. So it's our opportunity to go outside of ourselves and see the need that is right outside our door to be able to make a difference in person's lives. And one of the main focuses of the chaplaincy has always been for the first responder. For every year, we have 4 times as many first responders commit suicide as we do those that are killed in the line of duty. I think that we have a duty to get outside the church and make a difference within our community.
Knowing how to best balance the use of secular psychological crisis interventions with the spiritual and religious aspects seems challenging. What quick tips can you offer the crisis interventionist?
As we do a 30,000-foot overview of this type of ministry, it's so important to get to know the people that you're going to be working with. If you have the opportunity of going to command staff meetings, going into the dispatch office, and letting them see that you're part of their team, of what they will allow you to do, then they're going to call on you. They'll call you at 2 a.m, but please don't stay in bed. Go out and do what they need you to do and make a difference in what they're calling you to do. I think that there are 5 elements to going on a scene that we as chaplains, pastoral crisis interventionists, can offer where maybe the first responder can't offer. And that is that we do the assessment of how the person's doing, we do psychological intervention, we do liaison intervention, spiritual and religious intervention. I mentioned those real quickly, but those, you might do 2 of them on a scene, or you might do none of them on a scene. You're going to at least care for the person and get them a glass of water and let them know that you care about them and that your heart is broken because of what they're going through. I would encourage you to get to know the people that you work with, and always consider it an honor to be with them, because they're opening up their space to you.
Are there any common mistakes that you would caution people against making?
What comes to mind is that we want to look for opportunities for ministry. We don't want to be pushy, and we don't want to come in with our own agenda to help this police officer, to help this EMS person, or this family member that has just lost a loved one. We need to see what their agenda is so that we can help them and get in the canoe with them to go down the rapids, so that you're with them and that you can care for them. It's so important that we become a trusted ministry of presence. Because if you aren't known and you show up on a scene, then the police are going to ask you to leave. So we have the opportunity of ministering because we get to know people and we care about them and we have relationships. So I would just encourage anyone who's thinking about this type of ministry to make relationships one of the number one priorities. And then to make sure that you've got the proper identification that they will give you. And if you go somewhere where you're not supposed to go, then get ready to get your hand slapped. But enjoy this type of ministry. It's been a blessing to me, and it's been a great run.
Pastoral crisis intervention and disaster chaplaincy can be a way of expanding much-needed support in the wake of disaster and adversity to those of all faiths, including agnosticism and atheism. Knowing when and how to most effectively integrate spiritual, religious, and traditional psychological interventions is the key. Thank you for listening to this installment of the ICISF Quick Tip Series. Until next time.